Hello and welcome back. Jeb Smith here. In today's video, we're going to be talking about what a Biden housing market will likely look like in 2021. This past week, we finally received confirmation that Biden will be the next president of the United States, along with Kamala Harris as the vice president. So what we're going to do is we're going to talk about some of the things that they mentioned while running for presidency that they wanted to implement for first-time home buyers that is going to likely affect the housing market. We're going to be talking about whether that's a good thing or a bad thing for the housing market. We're also going to be talking about some of their other policies that they've discussed while running, how that might affect the economy in general. And then we're going to be talking about the Senate. The Senate now is split. The Republicans no longer have a majority, so people are talking about a blue wave. So what does a blue wave actually mean with regards to the president, making decisions? Can he just implement anything he wants now with regards to housing, with regards to the economy, now that he has the majority in the House and the Senate, if it came down to that split decision with Kamala Harris being the deciding vote? But before we get into that, I want to take a minute and ask a favor. If you're new to me, new to my channel, it's all about real estate. So do me a favor and hit that subscribe button if you want to stay up to date on everything real estate related. And if you find value in this content, do me a favor and give me a thumbs up. So I want to start by talking about the one thing that we've all heard about with regards to Biden and housing. So while running for presidency, one thing that he mentioned that he wanted to implement if he was elected was a credit for first-time home buyers up to $15,000. Now, we don't have a lot of information on the actual credit, the details of it, because it was something that was just thrown out there. And keep in mind, it still has to be passed, through the House, through the Senate, in order to be implemented. But what we do know is it was a first-time home buyer tax credit, and it could be implemented in one of a couple of ways. One thing they mentioned was actually providing the money up front. So you wouldn't even have to come in with that $15,000. It would be somehow given to you as a credit up front when buying a house. The other option would be it could be some sort of tax deduction, but that's not really what was thrown out there. It was thrown out as some sort of upfront credit. But what does that actually mean? Could that actually pass now that the Democrats are in control of the House and the Senate? And the answer is yes. It really has a really, really good chance now, I think, of passing, more so than ever, just because, the Democrats, because this is kind of down the middle of the road, right? It's not so far left, and that nobody would agree with helping out those that need to get housing, right? So right now, what we've seen is that there's a lot of people out there that are renting, and suffering, not being able to buy property just because of how expensive it's gotten. They don't have the down payment. So this tax credit is kind of middle of the road. And now that you have, the Senate being Democrats and Republicans split 50-50, you're more likely to get all of the Democrats kind of voting together on something like this, because it will help, people buy housing. And ultimately, Biden has been pro-housing, pro-helping those that are less fortunate get into housing. And so I think you have a really good chance of something like that happening. Now, the question a lot of you guys are going to have is when? When is that going to happen? Is it as soon as he becomes president and gets sworn in on the 20th? Is that going to be something I can use? And the answer is no. A lot of these policies, a lot of these things that are discussed while running for election take months to actually come into effect. So you're likely to see it best case this probably, April, May, maybe, which happens to be the strongest time of the market to buy a property. And if you've been watching the housing market for any period of time, you know that right now we are suffering from very, very low inventory. It's anemic. There's not a lot of property out there. Buyer demand has been very, very high due to low interest rates. And that is going to fuel the fire. You give people an opportunity now. You give people that were already planning to buy a property, a first-time home buyer, now an additional $15,000 tax credit. They're more likely to I mean, they were already going to buy a property. Now they're really going to use that money and help buy a property. Now, keep in mind, there are likely income restrictions on receiving this tax credit. Not every first-time home buyer is going to get it. It's going to be, there's going to be income guidelines that you have to meet, not to exceed in most cases in order to receive this. But you're going to have more people looking at property. Well, when you add more people to a market that already has very, very high buyer demand, it's going to put a further strain on inventory. And right now what we're seeing is, not a lot of property coming to the market. In my city, as I've mentioned, as of I think yesterday, once you take out senior homes, once you take out properties that are on land, leased land, there was 121 active homes on the market, and that ranges from prices in the 400s up to the millions, $3, $4, $5 million. So you got to look at that. 121 properties spread across this wide array of price ranges, and then you see that there's not a lot of property out there, especially for first-time home buyers. And that's why a lot of people are now transitioning out of California to less expensive states, more tax-friendly states. There's a lot of reasons people are leaving California, but one is affordability. And that's why you're seeing areas that haven't appreciated in years start to see this massive appreciation because there's so many people moving there, and it's creating inventory issues in those markets, or and creating more buyer demand. Multiple people bidding on property, bidding up property, and that's why you're starting to see this appreciation. So, a tax credit like that could put further strains on the economy. Something else you're likely to see is additional stimulus. You're likely going to see stimulus not only be put in front of the House and Senate to vote on. It's likely going to pass because you also have people, you have Republicans that were for that. So not only do you have, the House, the Democrats getting 50% of the votes in the Senate, you also have Republicans that are willing to vote for that too. And the House is something they've already approved. So you're likely to get that majority vote, and it's going to go in front of Biden, and Biden's likely going to pass it. What is that going to do? It's going to provide additional money for those that have been, affected more by the pandemic. Those that have been, let go of their jobs, the unemployed. That's going to help stimulate the economy. Putting money out there. There should be some restrictions on it, that it should go to pass rent and that sort of thing. Likely not going to be the case when that happens. So you're going to get money thrown out to people. They're going to use it, hopefully for good things, to pay past rent, so that landlords can get paid as well. But the chances are that money's going to go out into the economy, right? So the economy is going to get stimulated, in my opinion, through this sort of thing, which is the idea, right? They want money flowing into the economy. But while we have lockdowns, it's hard to say what's going to happen. But I believe as the vaccine starts to roll out, more people get it, you're going to see the economy pick up, right? And you're going to see more restaurants open back up. You're going to see entertainment open back up. You're going to see people out and about spending money, which is going to stimulate the economy. Interest rates are likely going to stay low. So, with that, the buyer demand will stay high. So, my guess is this sort of the blue wave, if you will, still requires, two parties to work together, just because something is 50-50 in the Senate, right? Just because they have the majority, with Kamala Harris being the tie-breaking vote, that means all 50 of the Democrats in the Senate have to vote together. All 50 have to vote together in order to even get to that tie-breaking vote. My guess is if it's something really, really far left, it's not going to be that easy to pass because, 4 or 5 of these Senate seats where the Democrats they're in red states, right? So they're not going to pass something so far left that they're going to get voted out of office when they come up for re-election. So they're going to play that game of, if it's middle of the road, they'll probably go for it. If it's really far left, likely not. And so I think you're still going to have two parties working together. You're going to have some balance in the Senate for things to actually get through. So that's a good thing, right? When people work together, better outcomes versus one party controlling everything, like California. You see radical things come out, right? You see these propositions that continue to pass up every 2 years. The same propositions after they've been voted down, you see them pop back up because there's an agenda. They're trying to pass things, right? So in this case, you're having parties have to work together, which will hopefully, balance that out and not allow these crazy things to pass, which is a good thing, right? But some other things that we know that they've talked about is forgiving a certain amount of student loans, that sort of thing. My guess is if you allow, student loans to be forgiven, if that's something that were to pass, the majority of those people who have student loans are the millennials, right? Not everyone, right? Because there's people my age that still have student loans, but a lot of the millennials coming out of college have a lot of student loans. So if some of that is forgiven, and these millennials are now the prime buying age, the largest pool to ever enter the buying market, the purchase market, are now starting to buy homes. If you eliminate some of their student loans, that only makes them more eligible to buy property because now they have less debt. You incentivize them with a first-time homebuyer tax credit. You're going to have a thriving housing market, in my opinion. Now, again, a lot of this is just guessing, right? Because we don't actually know what's going to happen. But what we do know is that these policies have been, or not policies, these ideas have been thrown out there. And because now you have that majority in one side, you're likely to see more of these things pass. Another thing, in my opinion, that you're likely to see is extensions on evictions, extensions on foreclosures, that sort of thing. That is likely going to get kicked further down the road. As of a couple of days ago here in California, the foreclosure and eviction moratorium in LA was extended through the end of February. So it was supposed to come up at the beginning of February. Now it's been extended even further. My guess is you're likely going to see something like that nationwide. You're going to see some evictions and foreclosure moratorium extensions, which is going to further allow people to stay in property. You can take what you want from that. I get the idea of helping people, but it also does hurt people too. It hurts landlords. It hurts those people that own property. Not every landlord, not every person that owns a property is wealthy or has the ability to continue making these payments when their tenant isn't making payments. Some of them are just mom and pop people that have, owned property for some period of time. A lot of them still have mortgages on them. It's not like these things are free and clear. So I get helping people, but also at the same time, it's going to hurt some people. And with this, you're going to see evictions, you're going to see foreclosures at some point. I just don't know that it's going to be anytime soon. And my guess is because buyer demand stays high, the housing market is going to continue to thrive, at least for the foreseeable future. I would think through at least 2021 at this point. And I expect interest rates will stay low for the next couple of years. So that's my thought on the Biden housing market. I mean, clearly, as we receive more information on these programs, on extensions, on foreclosures, evictions, even forbearances, which could happen, they could extend that even further. I'll continue to update you. If you have questions, comments, do me a favor, comment below. I'm happy to address them and have that conversation. But for now, I appreciate you taking the time to watch. Appreciate the support. We'll see you again soon. Have a great day. Bye-bye.